This video is sponsored by Surfshark.
He is the world's strongest human being, Bill Kazmaier.
I believe I'm the strongest man in the history of the world.
I actually think I'm the strongest man who ever lived. I'm the strongest man who ever lived.
I believe he's the strongest man that ever lived.
Strongest legs, right here.
Kaz is so strong, it's just unbelievable.
Bar loaded at 940 pounds, and he did an extra one for good measure.
It was a dickhead.
Know who I am.
I don't know
On TV, they know who I am.
Made a big mistake, Webster. I was an asshole. A real big dick. Like that? They called me a son of a bitch because I won so much. You want to be the best, you got to beat the best.
While many have claimed the world's strongest man title, only one could claim being blacklisted from competing for being stronger than everyone else. Throughout the early 80s, Bill Kazmaier reigned as not only the strongest man on the planet, but perhaps the strongest man ever to live. At a densely muscular, lean 300-plus pounds, Kaz was an athlete many bodybuilders wanted to look like and every strongman wished to emulate. With virtually no weaknesses, he was strong in every lift, breaking multiple powerlifting records while regularly hitting totals over 2,000 pounds, setting a deadlift record with 2 torn hamstrings, winning World's Strongest Man with a torn pec, and becoming the first man to bench 661 pounds raw in an IPF meet. Kaz was unstoppable. So unstoppable that he wasn't invited to compete in the World's Strongest Man for 5 years after winning the title 3 consecutive times. From playing psychological games with other competitors, intimidating judges, suing another strongman for claiming he was the strongest in the world, to nearly killing his partner in one of the contests, Kaz had a darker side, which many theorized was the reason he wasn't invited back to compete. Coming from a broken home, abused by his father as a kid, to dominating the world of powerlifting and strongman, this is how Bill Kazmaier became the strongest man who ever lived.
You know, my family was a little bit rough growing up, and I knew what an angry man was like. 1963 was traumatic. I just moved away from my dad and escaped the hell that I lived in, where beatings were regular, and I can tell you what a brick feels like. Running down the driveway as I was telling him to fuck off, I'd feel a brick hit me in the middle of the back. He was 59 years old when I was born, and at 69 he could still throw a pitchfork, a shovel, and it happened when I was a little kid all the way till the time I escaped. Being traumatized like that, and then being in a confinement of school where the education was either above me, below me, or I didn't care, sports started to become a bit of an escape and something for me to do. So I was pretty eager to look at sport and try to find something to do because school really wasn't interesting me. The first athlete that ever really impressed me was a Carlisle Native American called Jim Thorpe. Now, he was a guy back at the turn of the century. In the Olympic Games, he won the pentathlon, the decathlon. Whoever it was at the Olympics called him the greatest athlete of the 19th century. I wanted to be like him. I wanted to be good at everything. And as I grew up, I played football and wrestled and ran track. I think I was a professional athlete even in high school. And I'm surprised that I still have kidneys with what we did. I was bulimic. I used those diuretics as well as X-Lax. Everybody thought Bill's eating good. Yeah, they didn't follow me to the locker room where I took a pencil down the throat after every lunch.
Such extreme practices weren't uncommon back in the day, especially with the lack of easy access to good information and scientific evidence. But even today with the internet, there are still some things you can't seem to access. But today's sponsor, Surfshark, eliminates that problem entirely. With access to over 3,000 servers in 100 countries, Surfshark VPN changes your virtual location with the click of a button, giving you access to libraries and streaming services from other countries, such as Netflix, and bypassing geo-restrictions from blocked websites, a feature I often find myself using while researching for videos.
Oh boy, yeah.
Surfshark isn't just about giving you access to more content, but also preventing others from accessing your sensitive data. By encrypting your online data and masking your IP, their VPN secures your personal information when you use free public Wi-Fi, making sure your city, country, and download history aren't linked to your identity. Surfshark's Clean Web feature also blocks ads, trackers, malware, and phishing attempts, allowing you to surf the web safely without being monitored, tracked, or having your data collected. Surfshark is here to help you with their 24/7 customer support via live chat, email, or social media. Bypass censorship and protect yourself online while supporting the channel. Try Surfshark VPN risk-free with a 30-day money-back guarantee and get 4 extra months free when you go to surfshark.com/ironhistorian or by using the code ironhistorian at checkout. Thank you, Surfshark, for sponsoring this video.
I kind of knew that I was going to be fast and strong when I was 10 years old because we had a track meet and we ran the 50, the 100, and the 400. And there was 2 of the boys had failed twice, held back, so they were a couple of years older than me. One of them beat me in the 50-yard sprint. I won the 100-yard sprint and I won the 400. A couple days later, I snuck in the gym and I heard this clanging. It was the girls' locker room, so I really wanted to get in there and sniff around, if you know what I mean. It was a teacher called Mr. Nas. Mr. Nas let me in, and I'm a kid who's playing Wipeout all the time. I'm fidgety and got ADD and kind of messed up from a broken home. Now, he knew that I was from a broken family, that I had a hard time reading and writing. So I thought if I snuck in the gym and watched him, he might teach me how to lift weights. This man did a 150-pound military press. He weighed 195, and I think he said he was going to try to do his weight that day. He missed at 190, so he didn't do his own body weight. And he seemed rather frustrated. I said to him, "Can I try my weight?" He said, "All right, Bill, what do you weigh?" I said, "I weigh 50 kilos, 110, 10 years old, no instruction. I take the bar to my shoulders and press it over my head and set it back down on the ground." Now that 50 kilos, like a pillow, could have done it 5 times. I thought, well, I wonder what he's going to say. And the words that came out of his mouth still ring in my ears today. Because those words were a lot like the words that came out of my dad's mouth. "Bill, you're horse shit today, you'll be horse shit tomorrow, and you'll always be horse shit." The words that came out of his mouth were, "Now you have to leave, Bill, and don't come back." It wasn't really until I got to college in football that I walked in the weight room when they were recruiting me at the University of Wisconsin. Was encouraged to do a deadlift. I'd never seen an Olympic bar before. And 135, 2 1/4, 315, 405, 495, 585. I did 600 pounds the first day I ever tried a deadlift. I thought it'd be a great future going to the University of Wisconsin. But some things happened with my grades and I was not eligible. Still managed to get into Wisconsin on a 5-year program for hardship cases. I wasn't able to play as a freshman. As a sophomore, they moved me to defensive tackle. In college football, things really didn't work out. In high school, I was all state, the best school I'd ever seen. College, I kind of got behind the 8 ball because of my grades, so I wasn't allowed to play my first year. And then the second year, they put a freshman ahead of me. I was just disgusted with the whole thing, and so I quit. Here's what happened when I stopped playing football, dropped out of school. I lived above the pub. I was a bouncer there and a dangle in a few places. Things were not going well. The measure of a man is how you react on a bad day. I gravitated towards the YMCA. I snuck in the back door of the YMCA. They left a wedge there for me. I couldn't afford to pay. Overnight, I bench pressed 400 pounds. My squat went to 400 for 10s in a month or more. Just a few months after I started, I did a meet in Madison in town.
What year was that your first comp?
75. I think like a 490 bench, 560, 70 squat, and 650 deadlift in the first meet. I talk about the trampoline of life. At that point, I was at the bottom of the trampoline. I was, like my dad reinforced, horse shit and nothing else but. But from the bottom of that trampoline, I pushed as hard as I could, just like a squat. I started to come up.
And come up he did. In 1978, only 24 at the time, Kaz entered his first national powerlifting championship held by the Amateur Athletic Union in LA. The Wisconsin native was relatively unknown to the rest of the country, but he was just about to make a name for himself when he squatted 782 pounds, bench pressed 534, and deadlifted 804 in the 275-pound weight class, which immediately placed him in the top rank in his first national powerlifting appearance. 1 year later, the 316-pounder went on to win his first IPF World Powerlifting Championship with a 2,293-pound total, where he also set a new world record in the bench press with a 622-pound press. This would secure him a life-changing invitation.
Billy Kazmaier, the national powerlifting champion.
They'd had the show for 2 years before. I didn't look at a TV show from those 2 years. I didn't know what the events would be. I just showed up. When you're really, really strong, you don't need to practice the events. Terry Todd invited me to his house and to train for World's Strongest. I didn't know he was going to be the commentator, and I got to the show, and then there were the events. Little did I realize Don Reinhold, Bob Young, and all the other athletes had been training with this stuff for a couple of years.
And Billy Kazmaier is chalking up. He's now moved to California.
Kaz is so strong, it's just unbelievable. Hold it. Yes, sir. Look at that. Unbelievable.
The most wonderful event of my strongman career happened in '79 when I beat Don Reinhardt in the deadlift. He's world champion powerlifter. I went 900, it was hard. He went 900, it was hard. We're all strapped in, I went 960, and it almost busted my ass. He put his hand up and said, if he wants it that bad, he can have it. I quit. And we went to squat. I totally ruined myself in that deadlift, and I went downhill from there. I was winning the competition. Probably could have, should have won it.
In the end, Kaz was a respectable third in his World's Strongest Man debut behind Lars Hedlund and powerlifting icon Don Reinhardt after leading throughout much of the competition.
Probably could have won that first year if I just would have been a little more serious.
It was evident how much disparity there was between Kaz's strength and his technique. This was mainly due to his unfamiliarity with some of the events and the objects used. But this was all about to change next year when he'd be launching his strongman domination. Due to the novelty of powerlifting at the time, the prize money was low and sponsorship opportunities scarce. As a result, Kaz would find himself struggling financially, even coming close to becoming homeless, according to some reports.
After '79, third place was like $10,000. They didn't pay me. The AAU wanted my money. They said I was an amateur and they were going to take it, because they surely could use it for better things to line their pockets than to let me have it to eat with.
In fact, he was so desperate that he ate 1,000 goldfish in a goldfish eating competition for a few $100 prize.
I needed money to pay my rent. At a pet store, they were offering $400 to the winner of a goldfish eating competition. I was up against some really fierce competition.
There was a young man at 14, he probably ate 100, while I ate 1,000 goldfish.
I got my check and 100 extra goldfish in a tank.
After some financial struggles in California, he settled in Auburn, Alabama, where he'd worked in strength research for Dr. Terry Todd at Auburn University. After achieving some financial stability and under the tutelage of Dr. Todd, Kaz could go all in on his training, and he was ready to begin his domination.
The first ever World Series of Powerlifting, and working with me is Dr. Terry Todd, the reigning super heavyweight champion of the world. Kazmaier is ready to try 887 in the squat. That's like spirits of ammonia.
Spirits of ammonia, he's snorting there, getting ready.
Did he do it? 887.
Enormous weight.
Oh, look out, look out. Oh, he's really hurt now.
As I fell to my face going, fudge! These guys caught the weight, almost 900 pounds. I couldn't hardly walk, couldn't push on my feet.
You think it's going to let you continue?
I'll try the best.
You're going to come back and try to get that world record bench?
If I can, yeah.
Now here comes the People's Choice at Auburn, Alabama. Bill Kazmaier after a world record, which would put him in the lead in the overall competition.
It'll be one of the most amazing things if he can come back with this injury and make this lift. Notice the bar is really slanted this time. They're driving up. He got it. Fantastic, remarkable record under the circumstance. And is he happy? Standing ovation. What an achievement. A world record in the bench press. 634 pounds.
Let's meet all the contestants, one of whom will very soon be the world's strongest man. From the USA, the current world super heavy powerlifting champion at 23 stone 3 pounds, Bill Kazmaier.
How do you rate your chances in this contest?
Well, pretty good.
It's up. Come on. Damn it. Kazmaier angry.
A good lift.
We thought that the judge hadn't given him a down signal soon enough.
Is aggression very important to you when you compete?
Well, you've got to keep your body rigid and stable under those heavy weights, and that's part of aggression.
So it's all up now to the current leader in the contest, Bill Kazmaier.
They put a plexiglass squat platform above our heads with, I had a half a dozen Playboy bunnies sitting inches from my nose, and I never looked up.
He's made it, and it's 10 points to Kazmaier.
956 pounds. Yes, absolutely effortless. I think he could do 1,000 pounds. That's just a bust. And that makes Kazmaier the winner in the silver dollar deadlift.
The winner overall, then, and the world's strongest man for 1980 is Bill Kazmaier.
He pulled it all off. No one has ever won this many events in the world's strongest man care. You're number one. You're number one.
After dominating the 1980 World's Strongest Man contest, Kaz intended to repeat the following year, but not before setting some impressive world records. At 28, weighing 325 pounds, he became the first powerlifter to total 2,425 pounds, a powerlifting world record that remained unsurpassed for more than a decade. His world record featured a 926-pound squat, an 838-pound deadlift, and he officially became the first man to bench press 300 kilos, or 661 pounds raw, in an IPF-sanctioned meet. In November of the same year, he became one of the few lifters in history to hold world records in 3 of the 4 powerlifting events at the same time by setting a new deadlift world record at 886.7 pounds raw in competition. The highlight of that year, however, was his 3rd World's Strongest Man participation, but unlike last year, this one would prove more challenging.
And last year's defending champion, the powerful Bill Kazmaier, weighing in at 23 stone, 5 pounds, 6 feet 2 inches tall, he is the man to beat.
This event's something a little more basic, a steel bar bend.
And we have the final showdown between Britain's Jeff Cates and Bill Kazmaier.
Under change of conditions, cold rolled steel, probably 3 times stronger, I made a mistake. I put a bunch of towels on my head, I pulled and pulled and pulled, and then said, fuck it, and went over the top and started to push. And when I went over the top on this side, I blew off the pectoral and deltoid. So what do you do after you tear your pectoral off and deltoid? There's 4 events left. Go to hospital, right? My doc says, come on, we gotta go. I go, Doc, you see that title right there? World's Strongest Man, and that trophy over there, and that check for 20 grand. I'm not going to the hospital until I get my stuff. Next event, squat. All week long, I had to listen to Dave Waddington's name announced as the man with the world's strongest legs, Dave Waddington. Screw that.
Now Dave Waddington, 969, it won't go.
No, I should be able to do that. It just didn't come up. No excuse.
I stuffed myself inside of that Smith bar rack and did 969, but my pectorals went off. Legs right here. In the next 4 events, where do you think I'd end up?
And out of those 4 events, I took 2 firsts, a 3rd, and a 4th.
I think I took a 6th in wrestling because I couldn't handle the guys with one hand. There literally was no competition.
Referee Bruce Wilhelm has instructed Bill Kazmaier that he has to lock this thing completely out.
Bar loaded at 940 pounds, and he did an extra one for good measure.
Pectoral blown off, I would still beat Capes by 30.5 points. Did a tug of war against him for 9 minutes.
My hip was numb for 6 months. I had nerve damage on it. I pulled so hard.
And guess what he did? He quit.
Of 11 events, Kaz won 5. His wins included the log lift, 940-pound silver dollar deadlift, a world record 969-pound squat, loading race, and engine race.
Well, Bill, congratulations for a 2nd year in a row. You successfully defended your World's Strongest Men title. You are to be congratulated. How do you think your strength compares to Alexeyev or a Sultan Rachmaninoff?
In their lifts, they're the kings, and in my lifts, I'm the king.
I came out of the World's Strongest Man weighing 330 pounds, tearing the pectoral off. 49 days later, I went to the Green Bay Packers to play football. I lost 49 pounds and showed up on the football field. And the first day, strained, tore a hamstring and played through that. A couple weeks later, jammed my thumb and then went in a scrimmage and twisted my knee.
All of these injuries still wouldn't stop Kaz from defending his title in the 1982 World's Strongest Man for the last time.
I'm Bill Kazmaier from Auburn, Alabama, and I am the defending World's Strongest Man.
We went 870 in the squat. I tore kind of like hamstring adductor. We went 950. And I told you,
there he goes. Problems for Big Kaz.
Next lift is deadlift. What are you going to do? 2 torn hammies. Well, I went 700 for the opener, 800, 900. Now it's me and Ernie Hackett. 925, 50, 75, 1,000, 1,025, 1,050. We tied for the event at 1,055. Ernie Hackett was very happy to be able to do that.
Yeah, 90% of the psych I have is to beat Bill Kazmaier. It always has been.
But there I am doing it with 2 torn legs.
Dave Brown was a strongman lifter who came up to me 5 years after that competition and said, Bill, I broke your record in the coin lift with 1,060. I said, oh yeah, Dave, here's a 22 caliber Derringer. Shoot yourself in this leg, go heavier, and shoot yourself in this leg, and come back and go 1,060. And then, yes, at that point in time, you did beat my record.
So for the wrestling against John Gamble and Dave Waddington, that was the 2nd event the next morning after tearing the legs in the squat. I couldn't walk. So against John Gamble, I just started hitting myself in the head. I think it got his attention because he ran out of the ring. I guess I did bulldoze him up. Dave Waddington, we were slapping and hitting each other. Next thing you know, he tripped and fell and I landed on top of him. Oh, I meant to do that.
Top of the heap for the third successive year, super heavyweight powerlifter from Oberon, Alabama.
It reaffirms my idea that I'm the strongest man who ever lived, and I've already forgotten about it, even though it's only 2 minutes ago. Looking forward to next year and a comeback to defend my 4th year.
But unbeknownst to everyone, that wasn't going to happen. The 7th edition of World's Strongest Man, held in New Zealand, was the first to be held outside the United States. Still an invitation-only contest, they reserved the right not to invite their reigning champion.
And then I waited, and I didn't get a letter, I didn't get a phone call, I didn't get an invite. I was the world champion. I thought, surely they would invite me back. Can we share what really happened and why I wasn't invited back? It's because I was a dickhead. I was an asshole. They called me a son of a bitch because I won so much.
The reason behind this was you were too dominant and they wanted to, level the playing field a little bit? Or?
Yeah, maybe I was an asshole. I had a lot of fun psychologically with the athletes because I was really pissed off. There's been a little favoritism in strongman from its inception. I dominated Jeff Capes so completely one year, beat him by almost 28 points. They moved the show over to England. Why? I think because Franco Colombo fell under the refrigerator, snapped his leg, and won a lawsuit for $2.4 million. Arnold got on stage and said, he lost a lot of work, he lost a lot of money, blah, blah. Here's $2.5 million. The company said, ship it back to England. And I'll be damned if they needed the guy that beat Capes by 30 points back in the competition. They got this kid from Iceland, John Paul Sigmarsson, and John Paul's best squat was 800. I did 10 reps at 800. His best deadlift was 830. I did 2 sets of 5 at 8 1/4. His best bench was 480. My light day was 4 sets of 12 at 475. We might want Capes to win, or the new kid, John Paul Sigmarsson. So I wasn't invited. I think Jeff Capes had a lot to do with Grizzly Brown being invited instead of myself. The American champion 3 times, 1,100 kilo total, 300 kilo bench. From America, Grizzly Brown. They gave him my records. Capes just beat that guy that won 3 times in a row with all those powerlifting records. No, he beat Grizzly Brown, his buddy. I sat by the phone, didn't ring. I cried. Bullshit, I didn't cry. Kaz doesn't cry. One of the most solid, concrete reasons that they didn't invite me back was simply, it doesn't matter who you invite to the competition. We can invite any fat bastard and we'll end up with the world's strongest man. And that was their idea, moving forward in 83-45, that they really didn't need me.
Kaz's absence cleared the way for his fiercest rival, Jeff Capes, to take the title in 1983. Meanwhile, Kaz made a return to powerlifting at the IPF World Powerlifting Championship held in Sweden after winning it 4 years prior.
I got ready to go to the competition 2 weeks out, and I came flying up with a squat, a 900 double. My coach said, ram this second one. I came flying up, the bar bent. I blew the nerve in this shoulder. My arm dropped. I had to pick it up to go and squat.
Kazmaier, in recent weeks, has had injury problems.
I've got a shoulder problem. I got it from squatting, from carrying too much weight on my back. The problem with me is that I'm too big for the apparatus.
In the squat, I picked up my arm and put it on the bar. I went down with 850 and popped right back up like it was nothing. I probably was good for 950 before the shoulder injury. 501 in the bench. In the deadlift, you could see the shoulder if you look close. Shoulder shut down, started to atrophy. I go to set the bar down. It hurts so bad I just dropped the bar.
Oh, wait a minute, he dropped the bar, Paul. He dropped the bar. 2 red lights, the lift does not count. Coach Doyle Kennedy explains it to Kaz. So here's Bill Kazmaier, his 3rd and last attempt. Oh, look how slow he's going down, Paul. Look at this. Drop it this time.
Well, that was the shoulder. That played an important part. Yeah, I wasn't too sure there in the squat. I heard it snap on the second lift. I struggled through the bench press, but luckily I made it. Well, congratulations, world champ.
At the end, he won the heavyweight division once again with a total of 2,150 pounds, proving to everyone that his strength was not confined to the world's strongest man. Along with re-establishing himself as one of the world's premier powerlifters, Kaz went on to dominate the prestigious Highland Games in Scotland 6 times, from 1984 to 1989. Despite being out of the hunt for world's strongest man for the past 2 years, he was still proud of having held that title. So proud that he sued judo expert John Wooten over it. One day in 1984, Kaz turns on the TV and he sees this.
Asked the world's strongest man, John Wooten, to help us make a point about the front-wheel drive Ford Tempo, and nothing was going to hold it back. Not even the world's strongest man.
Nobody goes further, New England Ford.
Feeling distraught, he filed a lawsuit with his argument being that he was, in fact, the world's strongest man since he'd won the contest 3 times, along with setting a number of other strength-based world records. He asked the court to stop Wooten's claims, saying they cost him endorsements and embarrassed him in the weight community. Wooten, whose feats of strength included dragging trains, lifting cars, and lying on a bed of nails with 900 pounds of concrete stacked on his chest, argued that the title is inherently nebulous and there was no real way to quantify what made one man stronger than another. Kaz eventually lost the lawsuit after the judge ruled the title is just descriptive and doesn't carry a secondary meaning. In 1986, there was a brief stint in professional wrestling, first for smaller outfits before joining the WCW in 1991. And while Kaz definitely looked the part, he wasn't much of a character and not very agile in the ring, and his inability to adapt to sports in which pure strength was not the most significant factor made for a short career.
Was really looking forward to a solid career in wrestling. I wasn't really good enough to lead a match. My story ended at WCW when Jim Herd was replaced with Dusty Rhodes. So I call him up and I say, Dusty, all I need is another 100 matches. I'm gonna have this shit figured out. He goes, hey, Kazmaier, my son Dustin, he needs 100 matches, more than you do, so fuck off. That was the end of my wrestling career.
Soon enough, he was invited back to the 1988 World's Strongest Man, and the question on everyone's mind was, would he be able to claim back the title after a 5-year absence?
When I was finally invited back, I was wrestling at the time. Wrestling shape, 300 pounds, touch more. Trying to have abs and be ripped and look the part of a wrestler with blonde hair. While I was doing it, I pressed a guy over my head. He weighed about 320, 330. I tore my tricep off. At 16 weeks, we had the world's strongest man.
As the competitors warm up, I wonder how Bill Kazmaier, who's won this title 3 times, rates the current title holder, John Paul Sigmarsson.
I feel like he's what I'd call a paper champion. So we're going to make the point this week to become the world's strongest man again.
I teach him a lesson last year. We had a competition between me, Kazmaier, and Jeff Capes. I won 8 events out of 10, so he can eat his paper.
Hello, Kazmaier! Hello, Kazmaier, he says. 170 kilo long.
In the log press, I set the world record I hit. The look on my face was one that was just, I was petrified after doing that lift, thinking the tricep could have come right off. And the commentator said,
And I think that look is meant for John Paul.
No, didn't even know he was there.
510 kilos, 1,124 pounds.
Not carrying weight, not running with a weight. I was doing 35 kilos, but what farther level give it as a record, because this is a different implement. They change in every contest. You can't call any record a record, forget it. I'm not doing it anymore.
Kaz is in the front now with 1 point. We are going to change it tonight.
Kaz won the log lift as well as the deadlift and the sack race, took 2 second places, and was confident he was going to reclaim the title once again. But trouble struck during the sausage forward hold, where he got disqualified for moving his hands, stopping the timer prematurely.
You made a big mistake, Webster. A real big one.
With 2 events to go, Kaz was leading the field and was the favorite to win the following weight over the bar event. An event in which he held a world record during the 1984 Highland Games with a height of 18 feet 3 inches. This time, however, he threw the weight 3 feet higher than the bar but failed to get the direction right, allowing John Paul Sigmarsson to take the win in that event and ultimately the competition, scoring his 3rd World's Strongest Man win.
You came back full of confidence, full of energy. You wanted to come back and be the world's strongest man. You've been beaten. How do you feel?
Well, I was beaten today, and I've won before against John Paul, and I'll win again, and he'll win again. And it's the type of war that goes on and on and on until one of us drops.
Are you fitter or less fit this time compared to last year?
Probably more fit and quite a bit more fit than I was 10 years ago when I first won.
And the news is that Kazmaier is paying heavily for losing his gamble in the last event.
Well, I badly sprained my ankle. Been turning the car over second turn and the third turn of the second time, second heat, and the ankle twisted on a low-cut shoe. It was built up a little too high. I sort of made a mistake on the footwear.
Steadying his feet. No, he's dropped it and he's in real pain now.
Well, considering when I picked up the 220-pound log and my bicep is ripped, I didn't have even a dream of making 300.
With the ankle injury and an already torn bicep, Kaz finished a humble 4th place in his last ever World's Strongest Man contest. While 89 was the last time fans would see the great Kaz in the World's Strongest Man, it wasn't the last time they'd see him compete. From 1987 to 1990, Kaz competed in the Pure Strength contest, which started in 87 as a replacement for World's Strongest Man, which didn't take place that year. While Sigmarsson won the title in 1987, Kaz returned the following year in 1988 and won it. In 89, things were a little bit different. Instead of individual athletes competing against each other, nations competed against each other. The nations participating this year were America, Britain, Holland, and Iceland. The American team included Kazmaier and the Nightmare O.D. Wilson, who was nearly killed by Kaz during one of the events.
My momentum just took me forward, and I dropped my barrel. When I got to the bottom to retrieve it, somebody hollered out, "Look out, heads up." And when I looked up, all I saw was the shadow of a barrel coming down, and when I threw my hand up to block it.
Referee Jeff Capes penalizes the Americans, and that was a pretty risky thing. The barrel Kazmaier knocked off the Icelander's shoulders actually glanced off his own partner, O.D., in the lower courtyard.
The American team scored 0 points for the event and eventually lost the contest to Iceland by 1 point, but came back in 1990 and scored a victory. And that's when Kaz's career came to a close.
I was so beat up, I said, "OD, it's time to pass the torch. You're going, I'm not."
In true Kaz fashion, he would end his career by breaking yet another record, becoming the first person ever in a verified lift to press the Unliftable Inch Dumbbell, which weighed 174 pounds, pressing it overhead with just one hand. After retirement, he kept traveling the world giving seminars and was an annual TV commentator at the World's Strongest Man, as well as an MC for other strength contests. But in January of 2025, at the age of 71, it was announced that Kaz had an angioplasty following a heart attack after moving to the Philippines. His son Eric created a GoFundMe page to help raise funds to cover the expenses of a second surgery needed for a heart valve replacement, stents, and a pacemaker.
I just want to thank everybody for reaching down and donating and helping me to continue my mission, to do the things that I've done for years, trying to help other people. God bless you all. Thank you to so many who've given so much. I love you guys. I'm gonna make it.
My father told me that I would be horseshit and nothing else but. So I was able to overcome that. And as I said a prayer, it was simple. Lord, make me the best. When you do, I'll be humble. I'll share my talents with others. One day you can speak through me and I'll work for you. What's achievement? Desire, determination, dedication, consistency, and a little bit of hard work. What's hard work? Something's only heavy if you think it is. It's only hard if you think it is. If you tell yourself you're good at something and you like it, you do.
I believe I'm the strongest man in the history of the world.
Put your hands together, folks! The legend! Mr. Bill Kazmaier!
Thanks to Surfshark for sponsoring this video.